Tiffany, welcome to the Calm Mom podcast. I'm so grateful to have you with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really excited for the conversation, Michelle.
You guys, we just did, we're in the middle of, I guess, recording a swap. So Tiffany also has a podcast, and I was just a guest on her show. So we've kind of been talking a little bit already. And I'm so excited because it's kind of this idea that I really love helping women organize their internal world. And Tiffany is a master at helping us organize our external world and all of the things that are happening around us that have such a huge impact on how we feel and think and do and all the things. So not only am I believing you guys are going to learn a lot and walk away with real handles, but I'm ready to take notes also because I can use all the help I could get. Before we jump in, let everyone know a little bit about you. And I know you're also a mom and you're also a business owner with a lot of experience in all the places. So tell us.
Yeah, so my intro on my podcast says I'm a small town kid born with a big city spirit, and I think I've kind of been trying to spend my whole life building a tunnel between those two identities. I grew up around, I literally on a farm and a very just empowering environment of like hard work and lots of family and lots of
Yeah.
togetherness and my grandpas were both pastors and like that whole thing. And then today I live in a city and I'm married to a husband who has a great big job that flies all over the world. And I'm just, kind of reconciling how do I create this family environment that feels akin to what I grew up around and I loved. And my mom stayed home with us and it was awesome. I loved my childhood. And I've been called to a very different life. And so, how do I, as a working mom in a two career household, I wanted a big family. We have four kids, very spread apart from 15 to 4. Had one in my 20s, two in my 30s, and one at 40, which is a different podcast episode, all with the same guy. And just how do I create this sense of home and space and togetherness as a family? How do I be present for myself and for my husband? And I've spent the last 20 years as an entrepreneur, growing an advertising agency here in Indianapolis. And now spend some time on my podcast and helping other women build what I call a life of and
Mm.
having still the courage and time to say yes to things in our 30s and 40s when we're building our careers and we're building our families. It's a time where I just didn't want to be pissed and exhausted. I was like demanding that was not what it was going to feel like. And
Yeah.
so I looked to my world as a CEO in my business and said, if I can figure out how to scale my capacity in that world, how do I use similar toolbox in a different setting and figure out how to scale my capacity in my home? And so, Michelle said, I'm not like literally an organizer, but I think our first question is always, how do we find more time?
Yeah.
And so I hope to help people kind of see their worlds a little bit differently so that you can find time for the things that really pull you into your life of and.
Wow, that's beautiful. I would imagine that and not even imagine, I know this for a fact, there's so much tension there between all the different roles and the feelings of all the shoulds that come up about how we should be showing up in those roles. And I wonder, even before we kind of jump into it practically, I think a lot of times we focus on like all the things we need to add to our life in order for it to feel how we want it to feel. But so often it's actually the opposite. And I wonder if that's been true for you. Like, was it more of like I had to actually remove a lot of things that I was doing, or was it adding new things, or was it right? Was it like actually both and just getting really good at deciding like I actually need to do more of this and less of this to feel like I can show up powerfully in all my spaces?
Well, I think it started, and Michelle, you've run a couple of different businesses too. And I was like, the first thing I do in my business world to decide how my resources are going to be allocated, time
Yeah.
and money, is I decide what are my priorities, what has to move forward, what's imperative. And in our businesses, we have a monthly report, our financials that tell us, did you make good choices or bad choices? Are the things that you're doing leading towards more success or failure? And so
Yeah.
there's this built in sense of clarity. There's this defined scoreboard, and it forces an iteration and series of change that I think is missing from our personal lives unless we build it.
Yeah.
And we wait for these long, slow burns. And then it kind of ends in a blaze of glory, and then we try to start over. And so what I it really started with saying, what are my priorities? But not just what my priorities are, but everybody in my family has
Mhm.
priorities.
Yeah.
And I am an agent of those because I'm the mom. In our household, I am an agent of other people's things. When my husband is traveling, I'm an agent of making sure that we know that and that we're prepared and equipped for that. If my
Yeah.
daughter's going to join a travel volleyball team, I need to understand what that's going to require of our family. I'm an agent of that priority. If
Hmm.
my firstborn is going to do show choir and swimming in the exact same season, we're going to I have to be an agent of these things.
Yeah.
And what I started to realize is these are not competing things. These have to fit together like a puzzle, just like in my business.
Yeah.
I've got IT who wants investment. I've got finance who wants investment. I've got technology. We want to invest in AI. We've got new hires. There's just not enough resources to go around. And so you prune and you prioritize.
Yeah.
And we were not doing that in our families. I think what happens is everybody else gets fed and the mom gets the leftovers. And we have to know that we're setting it up that way. And it doesn't have to be the case. And so one of the things that I teach and I train is you have to understand your own priorities first.
Yeah.
And then you, as a family, have to lay those beside one another's and say, in the context of everything that's required from our family in this next period of time, I kind of look at ours as in 3 chapters. First semester, like fall to Christmas.
Huh?
Second semester, January to June 1st, and then summer. Our
Okay.
life, those are 3 very different worlds. Who's
Uh-huh.
in season, who's not in season, like what, like all that kind of stuff. It just takes
Yeah.
different
That's good.
resources. So I think about ours in those chapters. If you have school age kids, that might work. And I tell my family what my priorities are because my girls need to help. If my
Yeah.
husband is traveling for a week and my health is a priority, sometimes my kids are 15 to 4. Sometimes my 15-year-old will need to wake my 9-year-old up so that she can get out of bed 15 minutes before I get home from the gym so that I can still get her on the bus. That's teamwork. I
Hmm.
don't need to not go to the gym because my husband is traveling. I figured out a way to make that priority work by
Hmm.
sharing with my kids, hey, girls, when dad's traveling, I can't go lift, which resistance training in my 40s is something that I've just decided to be maniacal about. When I can't get it done, it makes me super grumpy and like all these things happen.
Yeah.
So they were like, I can get Ivy out of bed. Incredible. Thanks, honey. Like you would help be an agent for my priority. Like I feel so seen and I feel so loved. Thank you. So
Hmm.
that simple step of asking everybody in your family, and even I have 9 and 4-year olds, they know. My 4-year old might be, I want to have Amelia over 2 times. This is her friend. She's the fourth. She never gets any time for anything. And so I can be like, we'll have Amelia over 2 times. That will be amazing. What do you want to do when you have Amelia over? And then I can be an agent of her priority. And they start to learn they have a voice, they have control over where their life is going. And as a family, we can function as a team. And I get to feel seen
Hmm.
by our family too. And
Wow.
it totally changed the way everything worked just by doing that.
Yeah, it opens up communication and then it
Mhm.
empowers your kids, right? And everyone else to like help meet each other's needs and anticipate and like all these beautiful things we want to teach. I love this idea. I think I'm going to put it into practice for our family because I can see how that's so helpful. I'm curious because I wonder if there are people listening too who are like, I love the idea of this. And like, how do I choose my priorities? Like it's been so long since I've voiced any need or like had any space for taking care of myself in any way. Like how do you go about choosing your priorities? Do they just come on a whim? Are you super intentional about it?
It's so uncomfortable. It gets more comfortable. I totally remember my starting point where I was like, I literally, the idea of wanting something is so dangerous because
Yeah.
I'm certain I won't get it.
Hmm.
And so it is much more comfortable to sit in this space of I don't need anything.
Yeah.
Um, and I think letting yourself sit in that sadness, like for a minute, is a really important part of getting over to saying, I do deserve for my life to feel full
Yes.
and fun and
Yes.
stimulating. and that I feel love and laughter. And you talk about these in different capacities, Michelle, of like when our insides are so compressed on our spirits. But I think time can also be so compressed on our spirits that
Yes.
we can't conceive on how we would. And so it started for me of the things that took up the most space in my life, in my head. Like
Mhm.
our intuition, you when we were on when we were having conversation on my podcast, I don't know why that's so hard to say. You said I was at a space where I couldn't let my intuition speak to me.
Yeah.
I would actually say don't make it hard. Give yourself 10 minutes and let your intuition put on a piece of paper what it is,
Mm.
and sit with that and put it on a post-it note in your car for 3 days and see if something replaces it as more important. And, or, you know what I mean? Like kind of play that, but you usually know. Um, and start with a couple of things. I think you kind of have to learn how to gauge the capacity, just like when your business, your team has to learn its solving capacity.
Mhm.
And I teach how to put systems in place so that your family has more capacity in the practical doing of things. We can talk about a few of those.
Yeah.
So don't get discouraged if you're like, oh, I picked 6 things and I got 2 of them done. Holy cow, you got 2 of them done. Next time, pick two,
Yeah.
pick two. And then you're like, I think I had a little more capacity. Then the third time, pick three. Like it's learning the capacity of the family. And I also will say there's seasons where when my husband starts a new job, he did like 2.5, 3 years ago. And he was stepping into a massive role. It was an industry that he didn't understand. Like, so I knew he was going to have to like go to the different locations and learn the products. And it was going to be a massive mental load on him.
Mhm.
I knew in that season there was 6, maybe 12 months where the idea of me starting something new, of me speaking all over the place, having travel, that would put a stress on our family that would push us into a values compromise that was not worth it for me.
Yeah.
That does not make me not important. That does not make it something I don't want to do someday. But the season was not wise.
Yeah.
And so understanding that as you think about your family's priorities, it gives me energy to think about us as a team getting all of this done together. And we each benefit in different intensities over the course of these 20 some years that we'll live together, you know, and
Yep.
that's good. That's a good game. It's a
Yeah.
good game to play. And I think it starts to get hairy when it's like, I can't do this because my husband took this job. It's like, it's good
Yeah.
for our family. It is good for him. It is
Good.
a massive financial opportunity for us.
Yeah.
Those are truths. How
Yes.
can I support that for us? So
Okay.
to me, it changed. It took us out of this who wins, who loses. I'm never a customer of our resources, time and money.
Mm.
All of our energy is going to just keeping the kids fed. And it was like, no, I don't know that that's how it's going to feel for us. And so I think it can just look different.
I love that. I love the mindset around it, and I love the flexibility in it, right? It's like see so much of it. It's just like what season are we in? Kind of how you started this whole thing.
Yeah.
Right? I love that. I want to hear some of your like practical tips for us, for those of us who are managing a lot of things, a household with different businesses or just a lot of moving parts. One of our core like pillars on the podcast is overwhelm. And when we talk about overwhelm from a nervous system perspective, it's when both like the gas pedal and the brake circuits of our nervous system are firing at the same time. So it's like,
Hmm.
there's so much to do. And like, there's so much to do that I'm just going to sit here paralyzed because I just can't.
Yep.
So when we have that coming up, like what's a good next step?
So, again, observation from my business is that,
Mm,
well, of my life was I'm spending so much of my time on the most ordinary parts of our existence. I
wow.
was owned by the ordinary. I was owned by food. I was owned by laundry. I was owned by picking up. I was owned by barking chores to my kids. I was just like owned by the schedule, the calendar. I was like, I am owned by the ordinary.
Wow.
I, I want to live in the extraordinary. Why does that need to be on the margins of my life? And the ordinary is the most acute thing in my life. No. So
So
then
good.
looked into my business and I said, okay, the most ordinary things do not consume, like sending out invoices, onboarding new employees, our healthcare renewal, our the cleaning of the office, the trash taking out, like the snacks being refilled, all like they happen. They are not what is consuming the energy of the people here. We want to, we're a marketing agency. We want to work on new ideas and campaigns and new technology. And okay, how we've done that?
Yeah.
Systems. Everything ordinary and recurring in our professional lives, if you work in a well run place, is on a system. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, it's a very simple concept to lift into our personal lives. I'm going
Yes.
to put everything regular on a system. We act surprised every single day as families that we need to eat dinner. It's like this shocking, like,
Time again.
it's going to happen every day. Everybody's going to have to eat food. You've got to put that on a system.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be as rigid or as loose as you want it to be. But what day are you going to decide your food? What day are you going to order groceries? When are they going to be delivered? Who's going to put them away? How are you going to manage your back stock? Literally. So, like, we have in our basement a back stock space, all of our dry goods, our crackers, the granola bars, the snacks. And I have a list of like 15 things that are always on hand. Dried mangoes, everybody's got their crap. Great. All of our paper goods, our paper towels, our Kleenexes, the stuff. We don't ever run out. You don't need to run out. People, get the Amazon app, go down there once a week, add to cart what you need, and have it delivered. It's a system.
I love
Our
that.
food is on a system.
Okay.
We do not need to act surprised by these very ordinary things that happen. And because it's on a system, you talked about it's not a stressor.
Yeah.
We get to spend our time engaging on what happened in the day, on planning for the future, on ideas, on being at their games and picking up for breakfast and driving carpool and all of the administrative part that actually has me with my people
Yes.
versus everybody's pissed that they can't find their clean jersey for tomorrow's game. This is not a fight we're going to have in our household. This is
Mm-hmm.
avoidable. This is inside of our. So, couple of quick things.
Yep.
The morning wind up and evening wind down
Okay.
is a mainstay for us. 360 out of 365 days a week, this happens. It started with a literal checklist on our fridge of what happens every night before we go to bed. I use the parallel of a restaurant.
Okay.
In the
Yeah.
middle of the night, you walk by a restaurant, the tables are set for tomorrow.
Yeah.
There is no evidence of yesterday's patrons, yesterday's food, yesterday's fork that was used. You don't see yesterday. It is ready for tomorrow. And so our evening wind down is all about getting our space ready for tomorrow. So when we wake up, the people can be the primary like subject of the
Yeah.
day.
Love
I
it.
don't want yesterday's cereal bowls. I don't want yesterday's blanket that you got out. I don't want yesterday's homework. I don't want any of that stuff. Now, we do not live in like Sound of Music. Like, I'm not tweeting people down the steps in the
You're not
morning. Okay.
Captain Von Trapp.
Yes, it's actually remarkably fun in our house, says the mom. My kids are like, no, it's not. It is. I'm just saying it's not militant. But the point is, we run the dishwasher every single night. I don't care if there's 6 forks and a plate. We start every single morning with an empty dishwasher.
Mm-hmm.
Take the trash out in our kitchen and our bathroom because those are the places that get the hardest. I sweep the floor. We wipe down the countertops with the stuff that makes it very shiny and looks beautiful.
Yes.
Put the pillows and the blankets back, and we'll run the sweeper. And we do a 10-minute pick and put. I literally turn on the Alexa timer or one song. And if you can see something that doesn't belong, you put it away. You pick it up and you put it away. And when we all work together, it takes 3 or 4 minutes. And we do it every single day.
Yeah.
So I wrote it out on the fridge, checklist for a month and a half, and now it happens automatically. And I
Does
have
everyone have their own responsibilities and
no,
duties in that?
nope.
Okay.
It's teamwork. Sometimes kids have homework. Sometimes they're got a late practice. I have told the girls, I don't want to manage this. I want it to be fun.
Yeah.
If your sister has a bunch of homework or 200 pages you need to read tomorrow, like just be a teammate. Be cool.
Yeah. Real life.
Help.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's me alone because they're all really tired and I can read the room. Sometimes I'm in a board meeting and they have to do it and I'm not there to help.
So good.
And I'm like, be a team, be present, be aware, understand what else is going on. I don't want to manage a checklist, but every night we have to shut this down so that tomorrow morning we are not putting sticky on top of sticky and then it turns into a stressor.
Yeah.
We
Yep.
just run the system.
So
We
good.
have less stuff that happens in the morning because I work out in the morning. I refill water bottles, do a quick backpack check, and pull lunch. We pack lunches at night. I'm real
Okay.
big on that too.
Mhm.
Um, and pull backpacks out or pull lunches out of the fridge. But it's very light lift in the morning because I need it for my head space. I'd rather kind of eke out a few more minutes at night, wake up fresh, everybody's ready to go.
Mhm.
Um, so simple things like that. I started to realize when I would wake up, Michelle, and the house looked gross and there were fingerprints everywhere, and like it wasn't
That's the tone.
any ill
Yeah.
intent, but I
Yeah.
just felt behind from
Yep.
the jump.
Yeah.
And I would spend 12 minutes picking it up, and then I would get half my workout in, and then I would be mad about that. And then I would be like, doesn't anybody see this crap? Like, and you
Yes.
just kind of start pissed when you see them. And I was like, this is
Yeah.
not the interaction I want to have. This is not the mom I want to be. How
Yeah.
do I set this up so that the family agrees this sets us up better, to
Yeah.
all be better in the morning? So,
Cool.
um, it's also, you've talked a little bit about this too, moving from implied expectations to explicit agreements. Me
Mm.
writing it down at our
Yeah.
family meeting, talking about this is an observation I have about the way our family is functioning. This is something I'd like to try together for 2 weeks at our in 2 family meetings. We're going to talk about whether it feels better or whether it feels worse together. And
That's
can you
great.
guys do this whether mom's home or not? Is that easy enough to do? And it's like,
Yeah.
so it moved from an implied expectation, which you talked about a little bit, like I don't even know what I wanted my husband to be, to a very explicit agreement that now they manage themselves to. I just get to say, hey, didn't we agree to this? I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, mom, I got distracted. Well, I'd say fine.
Yeah.
We all live under a little dose of grace, but
Mhm.
um, simple things like that
Yeah.
make it so that I'm managing the system and I'm not managing the kids and I'm
Yeah.
not managing all these little details
Good.
of things I want done.
Yes. And when you're like, it's like anything else, right? When you're on it every day, 10 minutes and we're good and we don't have to like waste half our Saturday catching up from the whole week. It's like, it's
Totally.
so much easier than we think. I love that.
Totally.
Yeah. If we work
Totally.
the system. I want to talk a little bit about who we might be showing up as when we don't have all of these systems in place and we're not, doing the things that we know we need to do to feel really good and just like be at our best. Because
Yes.
you've kind of personified these. So tell me this because this is so fun and interesting. And I bet we can all find ourselves in some of these characters.
Yes. So, okay, quick Venn diagram orientation. My definition of a life of and is I think there's three major areas of our lives that we have to manage. Ourself. So
Mm-hmm.
there's lots of things in there. Your health, your spiritual life, but yourself, you as a person, your
Yeah.
family, whether that's your literal nuclear family or your collected family, and then your career. So even if you don't work outside of the home, it's a pursuit that takes your talents in a way that is not serving yourself or your family. So it could be
Mm.
volunteer, could be at
Yeah.
school, it could be a lot of, but a place where you're extending yourself into
Yeah.
a space that is not yourself or your family. So that's what I use the word career because I work outside. But your vocation, I don't know, maybe you can help me with that, but
Yeah.
you get the idea. So yourself, your family, and your career.
Uh-huh.
So in the middle where that Venn diagram overlaps, that is your life of and. That's where you are living each of those circles to your prioritized intensity,
Okay.
right?
Cute.
There's seasons to things, but
Yes.
to your selected prioritized intensity, that's the middle of your Venn diagram. They're never perfectly in balance. That's a fallacy. There's seasons, but all of those are being touched and tended to.
Yeah.
My observation is that there is one of those three circles that is harder for each of us to stay in. And so we fall into the area of the Venn diagram where there's just two circles overlapping.
Wow.
So
Okay.
let's talk about I say this is your unbalanced character. Who is the person that sort of occupies our body when we fall out of that space where we're tending to all three? So
Yeah.
I'll walk you through them. The first
Yeah.
one is the grumpy servant. So this is where you're tending to your family, all the things they need, the places they need to go, the food they need to
Super
eat, the
mom.
lunches that need to be packed. Yeah. And you're tending to your vocation, your career.
Yes.
All the external things are
So
getting
many of us.
fulfilled, but you have let go of those things that keep you sane. Your quiet time, Michelle, the
Yeah.
breathing exercises, your movement, your spiritual walk, whatever those things are, those things start to dissipate because you're like, oh, I gotta be there for enter. No, like complete the sentence.
Yep.
And we turn into this grumpy servant and we start to play this victim. Like you use that vocabulary of like, or I get just pissed at my husband. It's like, oh,
Yes.
you're waking up, you're on the Peloton. Oh, I see. Like
Must be
you have
nice.
time for your friends. Like anything he's doing for himself is a personal affront to my busyness. And I start to hate him with brutal intensity
Oh my
that is
gosh.
of
Yes.
no making of his own. It's
Yep.
just he has the discipline to
Yeah.
keep himself a priority, and I get pissed about that.
Yeah.
That is just true.
Yep.
So I
Same.
become this grumpy servant. I'm not even happy about the things or people that I'm tending to, and I'm like, "Rah," you just start to become this terrible person. So that's the grumpy servant.
Okay.
That is maybe hitting a little home for Michelle. I don't know.
Yes. I've been there. Let's spend a moment
She's
there.
itching her head. She's like, here I am.
And then the worst is when my husband's like, well, why don't you just do it? Like, why don't you just, like, he's going to get a massage on Friday. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that sounds so nice. And he's
Yeah,
like, why don't you just book one? And I'm like, yes.
I know. So we'll
It does
talk
make
about how this can become really helpful vocabulary. So let's talk to where I think a lot of men fall, and
Okay.
this is the lonely achiever.
Okay.
So and again, we're stereotyping a little, but they are very good at self and career,
Hmm.
and can have a harder time knowing how to connect into reacclimate. Like when my husband's gone for a while and like a bunch of stuff happens, he's like, how am I not an accessory to what's going on here? How do I play an active role? How do I get up to speed? And how do I, as his wife, make it so that that on ramp is like thoughtfully set up so that I can help him keep hold of that circle? Because he wants to be a great dad, he wants to be present for all of us, but
Yeah.
his natural energy, if we don't stay thoughtful about that, is on Saturday mornings to wake up and like jam through three letters of intent, like legal documents, and like make sure that he's got his think time done so that when his meetings are filled his whole week, that he's got that stuff done, and kind of processing in the background these conversations he's preparing for. And like, yeah, he's got a tea time with his dad, which is awesome. And also like not, it's physical therapy because his shoulder's hurting him. And like, great, love that for you. But he is not going to be like, wow, I just lost 2 hours organizing the cupboards and unloading the dishwasher. It's
Yep.
just not going to happen for him.
Yeah.
So we can be an agent for one another where I can say, hey, when you get home from a trip, within the first night or two, I'm going to make sure that we have a family dinner. So we have vocabulary in our family where it's like, hey, dad's going to be home. So if I have two, a high school and a middle schooler, they always want to be with their friends, which is amazing and normal. But I'll be like, hey, dad's going to be home Thursday. Let's either Thursday or Friday night do a family dinner. It's a way that I anchor him back into the family, and I manage the calendar and where the kids are all going and what's happening and how, if it's happening or not.
Yeah.
And so me knowing that I can help him not get to that lonely achiever place, because he doesn't like that either. He feels
Yeah.
like he's out in the world doing all these things for us and that we're not that connected. And yes, we're grateful, but kind of like just riding side saddle, and like it
Yeah.
just does not a good feeling for him.
Yeah.
And so we can be an agent for one another. And also when he gets back home from a trip, he'll say, hey, babe, I know that it's harder for you to get out of the house and do things for yourself. How can I help you with that while I'm home? Because he knows I naturally fall out of the me circle, and
Yeah.
and it's not good. So having this vocabulary, and then we'll go to the last one here, but begins to help you orient one another. And how do you be a partnership so that you both can live it? The life of Annan is abundant resource. We don't have to decide who gets
Yes.
to live there.
Talk about it.
and
Yeah.
very tightly tied to the priorities conversation that we had earlier. So the
Mhm.
last one um,
This is
is
so
the
good.
fear is the fearful loyalist. So
Okay.
this is someone who lives in their me circle and in their family circle, but
Mm,
struggle with having the confidence to reach out into the world and say, "Hey, I'm relevant. I have value. I'll take a risk. I'll step out. Like, yeah,
yeah.
let's try it." Like the outside world, because they have lived and are most comfortable in kind of this well tended to space
Hmm.
of I know what I need and I know what my family needs. This variable of the outside world starts to become really scary. And so
Yeah.
this fearful loyalist, they're like protecting their time. They don't want to miss drop off. Like the
Hmm.
variability of letting the outside world in starts to become very big and scary.
Hmm.
Um, so you can see how having a very entrepreneurial spouse, it's like crushing it and starting six companies can be that tension could get really, really real. And so knowing how do how does my risk tolerance and my experience with the outside world begin to help you define
Yeah.
baby steps to test your way into knowing the world is going to accept you and love you and have a lot of things to help you grow. But I think I'm in my mid 40s. And so some of my kids who had their kids at reasonable ages, not 40, are the kids are like driving and they don't need them in the same way. And so that family circle shrinks really fast.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so then there's this moment of confusion of like, what do I serve and what value do I add? And this fear can really step in. So
Yeah.
again, these all there's not better or worse unbalanced characters. We just I think having for me vocabulary of I'm pissed at you, husband, right now because you're getting up to take a run is nothing to do with me not wanting you to be healthy. It's everything to do with I'm mad I haven't had the same discipline. And so
Yeah.
it brings, I think, a proactive ownership and ability to solve through
Yes.
these just natural cycles that happen in life. So
Yeah. It's like almost like catching which character you're in, and then there's a little flag there of like, all right, this is where our focus and energy and attention
Mhm.
needs to go to like come back into balance.
Totally,
It's so
totally. And knowing
helpful.
how
Yeah.
to be partners together in it. So
Oh my gosh, it's so good. And I think you've talked a lot about priorities, and they're so important. And we all like say we have them, right? We all like say we have values, or I think we all do have values. But I think sometimes we can get so tripped up because, and it goes to your three kind of spheres is like a priority is spending that quality time with our family. But then when we're stuck in another sphere, that's not really reflected in our day to day or whatever the priority is, right? So this also helps us to like stay in integrity with the things we actually say are important because it can be easy to get like, oh my gosh, my marriage is a priority, but I haven't like spent quality time with my husband in 6 weeks or whatever it is.
yeah, and I think I want to double click into that real quickly is
Yeah,
I think you have to quantify it. I talk about shopping for
that's
your
good.
time. So implicit, explicit.
Come on. Yep.
Saying quality time with your husband, beautiful concept. What does it
Yes.
mean? How will
Yes.
we both know if we've done it? How do
Yeah,
I practically put quality time on my calendar? Is that
that's right.
like a monthly date night? Is that twice a week? Is it sex every day? I don't know. Like you have to define what that looks like.
Yep.
And I don't think we go to enough granular detail to say what does it mean for me to say yes to this?
Mm.
Um example in my life that's kind of silly, but I'm just a sucker for all things fanfare. And so I love like a triathlon with my friends or a training for half marathon or like just stuff, fanfare, a
Love
shirt, a medal, a start line, balloons, a band. I mean, I'm here for it. Um, all that stuff takes so much time.
it. Mm.
I had to sit down and say, how much time does it actually take me to train for one of those things, to to
Yeah.
to go to it, to take the Saturday to drive, to do, and I cannot fit it in the season. I
Mm.
can fit being healthy into the season,
Yeah.
but those things right now, because I have zero kids who have their driver's license, I count every day. It's still zero. Um, and once my oldest can drive, I think it will be a huge release valve and there's going to be things I'm going to be able to say yes to. So my
Yeah.
point is my goal was I mean, I had Quincy at 40 in the middle of COVID. Let's just say Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall and needed to figure out how to be put back together again.
Yeah.
Um, and so I had, but I had to realize it had to happen in a way that was sustainable. How many minutes was it going to take me? How far away was the gym from my house? How many days was practical? And
Yeah.
like actually shop for the time it's going to take, because we cannot live an eternally additive existence. It does
Yeah.
not work.
Yeah.
So get very explicit. How will we know? My husband and I going through this right now because everything goes on our calendar except for us. And so I'm like, we got to put us on our calendar.
Yeah.
And we're starting at one date night a month. And in 6 months, we're going to say, is this enough? Or do
Yeah.
we need more? But that's a 6 month trial. We took a
Yeah.
step towards it. That's what we could
Love it.
meaningfully reach right now. And that's a great start. And then
Mhm.
this in like March, around our anniversary, I was like, let's revisit and see if this is working. And if it is, great. If not, then we'll adjust it. But
That's
be
it.
willing to just try and test stuff. So
Yeah. I love that. I love the permission in that too. It's like the intentionality and the permission to just try it out. And you can always pivot and adjust.
totally. Yeah.
You are brilliant. This has been so helpful and so good. Tell the people about A Life of And. Like, what is this whole thing, and how do they get involved and find you and work with you and learn from you?
Yes. So I think that it's an ideology, I think, at its beginning of that, like, hey, we can make these busy stage of our life. For me, it's like 30s, 40s, 50s. And like it can also be so fun and filled with yeses, filled with
Yeah,
ands. And we don't need to stop being afraid to dream and saying yes to new applications of our time and talent just because we have a bunch of stuff. And so let's
and
own the
people.
ordinary so that we have time for the extraordinary. Yeah, a bunch of stuff and people. Let's own the ordinary so we have time for the extraordinary. That's the ideology of the life of Anne. My podcast is called Scared Confident. Or you can Google Tiffany Sauder, Scared Confident. And, once, twice a week, kind of depending on how aggressive I'm feeling, you can hear me talk about the tools, my own story and journey, as an entrepreneur, as a mom. And I have amazing guests like Michelle on as well. If you're interested in like, how do I do this for my family? How do I become the CEO of my household? Then you can go to my website, tiffanysauder.com. And it's called the Life of And Academy. And it's a digital course. It's 4 modules delivered across 6 weeks. And it will help you, I think, with some mindset, some very practical things, like literally do this, like I talked about with the evening wind up and the morning wind up. Yeah, would love to have them go through it. And it's helping people. It's exciting. And I just think like you're Michelle, like giving people freedom from this elephant that sits on their chest. I
Mhm.
want to give people freedom from the tyranny of time, that like you can scale your life just like we do our businesses.
Oh, it's so good. It is freedom. And I think so often we think we need more information and we don't. So I
Mhm.
love like the practical
Yeah.
aspect to it where you're like, you're not going to have a new notebook of like all these notes. Like, go do
Yeah.
this and
Do
you're
it.
going to see a difference. Oh, so good.
Do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for making the time to be here, share with us, share your energy and your wisdom. So appreciated this conversation.
Yeah. It was awesome. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful.